live. How's it look?
Great.
Good.
I'm out.
Tastes like lake cabs. Alright, what's up everybody? I wanted to make a 500-mile review video for the Decoy, but life happened, busy with work, just want to ride, sometimes don't want to edit, do all that stuff, so yeah, pushed it out now. I'm at 780 miles on this thing now, 70 hours, just finished up a ride today, why it's a little dirty. I just wanted to give it a brief overview, some things that I like and don't like about the bike, my thoughts on sizing, if I would buy another one, thoughts on the motor. Obviously the Decoy Elite still has the E8000 in it. So yeah, we'll dive right into it and go over a few minor specs and then get into some of the build. So first off, I'm 5'10", 5'11" on a good day, 175 pounds. I went with the XL. I typically ride a large, but I didn't demo the large. I sat on it, cockpit was very congested for me. It was super tight. The reach on the XL is 469 millimeters opposed to 449 for the large. And I believe the Capra large is 460, and that's my bike that I normally ride. So another comparable as far as specs goes for this bike, the overall wheelbase on it is 1259, and the Capra, the large, is 1227. So when I'm riding this bike, it's some tighter technical stuff, maybe some slower speed stuff. You definitely feel the longer wheelbase on this bike, opposed to the Capra is a little more agile, and you're able to move it around a little bit better. And that's definitely a con of that going with the XL, but overall I would rather have it be a little bit longer of a bike, especially for where I'm riding in Southern California. The bottom bracket height is 344 millimeters, which was pretty low. I put the flip chip. The bike came with the flip chip in low position. I flipped it up to the high position, so that changed the bottom bracket height, moved it up to 352 millimeters, which kind of helps for pedal slapping, going up and down hills. But the main reason I did it wasn't really for the pedal slapping and climbing aspect of it. It was that when I was riding the bike on steeper descents, I felt like that front wheel was pretty far out in front of me, and I was losing traction numerous times in the front. I was just washing it. So putting that flip chip in the high position, changed the head tube and seat tube angles, kind of rolled me more forward. And I'm sure with other riders, depending on how you typically ride, your body positioning, your form, having it in the lower position might benefit you or be better mentally. And mentally for me, I liked it in the high position. I feel like I got a little bit more control of that front end. So a couple of things I changed about the bike initially was the seat. I put the Ergon saddle on there. The stock seat was absolutely terrible on this thing, which again, I bought the Capra new in 2020, so I was familiar with how bad it was. But yeah, changing it up initially helps a ton. And another thing I did was I replaced the tires. I did wear out the initial set, and actually bought another Maxxis DHR2 for the rear just because I was in a pinch and they didn't have any of the Schwalbes available. The Maxxis in the rear for this thing that it comes stock with is terrible. I mean, I'd like to see Maxxis come out with an e-bike specific tire that's got a little bit of a harder compound. I went with the 120 TPI on the second. On the second tire I bought, the DHR2, and I did the intermediate compound as far as the tread, and still just like 1 or 2 days at Laguna, you're looking at knobbies are starting to peel off. I'll show a clip of what the tread life looks on the rear tire, but these things hold up really well in the conditions we have here in SoCal. A lot of rock gardens, steep stuff at Laguna. It's held up really good. The front, it's the same thing, the Schwalbe Eddy Current. It's the 2.6 width, and I gotta be honest, I really like that it doesn't wear out. It's got really good tire life and wear life, but I've kind of struggled with the front. I do think that as far as tires that I've ridden that I like the most is the Assegai up front from Maxxis, but this thing seems to be a little far off. Like, I don't know if it's myself or mental, but I feel like ever since I've been riding this bike with this tire that I tend to wash the front end a little bit more. So far, that's all I've done on the bike as far as changes go. I haven't redone a chain, nothing to the drivetrain. It's stayed pretty much stock. It's a great build. As far as suspension goes, it's 170, 165 out in the back. It's got the Fox 38 up front, which is a huge difference. One thing I did hear that was a big difference on the 38 opposed to the 36 is like the fore and aft motion on it, having more support there, which you definitely feel. It's really plush, but it's also progressive when you get to the base of that stroke, and you get a lot of support down at the bottom. The Float X2, I have the older model on my Capra, just the year past, and they changed the position switch for it. I have the 2 position on both bikes, but this is the newer one. I haven't noticed much difference as far as the shock goes in between what would be the 19 and the 20 model, but the climbing switch or the 2 position lever, it's a lot better on the newer shock with this bike. As far as some other components of the bike, I know they're not putting it on the new 2021 Decoys, which is a shame, but this one has the Crank Brothers Synthesis carbon rims, lifetime warranty. I actually cracked a rear rim a while back. I don't have the clip of it, but it went off like a bomb. Just hit a rock really, hit a knife edge of a rock really bad out in San Clemente. And in the market we're in and this COVID environment, I thought that I would have a long turnaround time to get it warranted and sent back to Crank Brothers, and I got it back within like 3 days of shipping it. The back and forth in between carbon and aluminum rims, like I don't really feel a difference ever myself as far as ride goes, but if I can get a carbon rim with a lifetime warranty, I'm going that route, because if you can just send them in and at no cost to you and get it fixed and just pay for shipping, that's worth it in itself right there. Alright, so battery life with this bike, it's got the 540 watt YT battery in it. I hear a lot of talk back and forth online and forums talking about whether it's enough or not enough, and some people are buying a second battery if you could get your hands on one, which granted, I guess if you have a big loop close to your home or your local riding spot and you want to do a 35 plus mile day, then great, maybe more power to you if you can get that second battery. I don't have any issues with this battery at all. If I just ride in trail mode all day, I typically get about 5 miles per bar on the battery. And again, I'm 175 pounds, so probably 180, 185 in gear. If I do a 25-mile ride locally, that's going to put me in my local spots around 4,000 to 5,000 feet of elevation gain, and that's plenty of a ride for myself. The motor's really good. I haven't messed with any of the app settings, nor have I downloaded the app, but I'm pretty stoked to be able to get the E8000. It's a tested and true motor, and I have had 0 issues with it. I know they throw some error codes from time to time, and people talk about how to not wash them and how to wash them. I just try and keep the water away from the input for the charger. As far as handling goes, I love the way this bike handles. It's like a tractor. Like, it loves rough, fast trails. Again, you give up, or I gave up a little bit personally with getting the XL, as not having the bike maybe quite as nimble in some of the tighter stuff, and I'm okay with that. You get a lot of, the bike feels really grounded on descents, and as far as climbing goes, it's an e-bike. To me, it climbs great. I don't have any issues climbing with it. But the bike feels really stable in the air. You're still able to whip it around in corners. And, it being a heavier e-bike, it's still really playful. You can put the bike where you want to put it. So some of the pros and cons for this bike, for me personally, in short, is the price. I mean, I'm never probably going to be able to afford spending $15,000 on a bike, but I really feel like for what you get in this build, and that's regardless if you're looking at a new Decoy or you can get your hands on a used one, they're some of the best bang for your buck as far as what you're going to get for the spec of the bike, and that's all the way from the base models to the Core 4 models now. Again, I'm not sponsored by YT or anything. That's just my personal opinion. I like the bikes. I like what they stand for, and I like that they're a little bit more competitive in pricing. So my biggest complaint with this bike, bottom line, is the main pivot bearings. These things are needing to be greased up probably, I don't know, every 3 to 4 rides. Fortunately, they're really easy to service. It takes, a whopping 5 minutes to get in there, clean them up real quick, throw some fresh grease, and then thread them back in, and you're good to go, and they feel great. Another small con to the bike for me, just the cockpit. It's, the cables are kind of all over the place. They're really long. My assumption would be maybe they're doing it because they're building them out from XXL to small, and it's a one-size-fits-all. I don't know. I could be completely wrong in that. But it's something I want to get around to. I want to cut them up and shorten them and clean them up. A couple of buddies who I ride with have done that, and it looks way better. The brakes, I've never had too many issues with the SRAM code brakes. I see that that's another thing that people complain about often. This bike, when I did get it stock, or out of the box I should say, it was a little, the rear brake, it was really spongy, and I had to bleed it out, and I had some air trap in there, and that completely changed it once I did that, and ever since then I haven't had any issues. So overall, I don't really have too much to complain about with this bike. I think it's held up really well for 70 hours of time on it. It still feels brand new, and I'm just going to continue to keep riding it. I love the thing. It's been a blast. It's great for me if I want to go get a quick lap out after work and still get home to the family in a pretty quick time if I don't want to just demo myself and do a 2 or 3 hour ride. But I hope that helped a few of you. Again, I know that they're not making the Elites anymore, but hopefully it's still a helpful review. They haven't changed a ton on the newer bike without the regards of the motor, with YT going to the EP8. Still the same battery. So my opinion at the end of the day of this bike is, if you can pick up a used one that is in decent shape, or the brand new 2021 Decoys, I would highly recommend it. You're going to have a ton of fun on these things. They're a blast to ride. They handle amazing, and I think they're the best bang for your buck if you're going to get into an e-bike. I hope that helps. Thank you guys for tuning in, checking out the channel. If you guys want to see more bike reviews, that's something I'm trying to get into over time here. So I'm trying not to divulge too much into just breaking it down spec by spec. I understand some people want to see that, but try and take a few of what I think are the most important specs of the bikes and break it down in a more simpler way overall. So yeah, keep tuning into the channel. I appreciate it, and yeah, we'll see you guys out there on the trails. The bottom bracket. Oh my god.